Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today, I'm going to talk about virtue signals and masks again. And there's a sense that we've talked about masks as virtue signals, and certainly they are used as virtue signals in certain circumstances. So, for example, if you go to someone's web page or to their Twitter account and their profile, they're wearing a face mask. Well, you've got their name, you know their identity, and they're showing us the mask. If you're going to certain kinds of parties where you know everybody's who's going to be there, and they show up with a mask on, well, you might know that person, so it's a virtue signal in those circumstances. It's not quite a virtue signal in the same way, however, when you're just out in public. And at first glance, it seems like a virtue signal, but one key thing about a virtue signal is that one part of it is that you're making a claim. That is, in some sense, I'm a member of this club, is what the signal says. But more than that, as we've talked about, that signal becomes the story becomes within the community that the signal itself is virtuous. It starts to have signs that are, something that's good for you. In the case of masks, it's good for you because it keeps you healthier and you're not unclean and so forth. But the other part of a virtue signal is that you're actually making a claim. You're saying, this is good, or we, this group, are good. And key to making that claim is that I'm making it, that I'm a person with an identity who's making that claim. If I'm making that claim and you have no idea who I am, well, then I'm not really making the claim at all, because what makes a claim is that I put something on the line. When I wear a virtue signal, I'm saying we are good, like our group is good. And I am saying that. And what that means is I pushed reputation onto the table, a little bit of reputation or a lot, depending on how sort of disagreeable or how in your face I am about it. I pushed something into the table. So later, if it turns out our group wasn't good, we get sort of humiliated or disgraced, well, I lose that reputation. But if I wear this signal and you don't know who I am, well, I bet nothing. So this makes masks quite different than your typical virtue signal. In fact, it's an illusory virtue signal. Because every time that you wear this particular signal, boom, so, hey, I want to put this virtue signal on, showing that I'm a membership of this, COVID is the worst thing ever and we should overthrow society on the basis of it. And as soon as you put it on, boom, you're anonymous. No one can see who you are. So as soon as you try to put this virtue signal on, it no longer has the properties that you need to be a fully functional virtue signal, because you're now anonymous and you push no chips under the table. So this is sort of almost mathematically interesting in the sense that it's sort of a self-contradictory virtue signal. As soon as you wear it, it's no longer satisfies the properties. Yes, I hear you, pistachio pear. It's right next to the camera here. So this makes a huge asymmetry in the incentives and the pressures involved in wearing masks. So typically, suppose there's two teams. There's the group A and group B. And if group A wants to go out, they'll put, let's say, some kind of symbol, something very subtle. Either it's an actual ribbon, which we joke, wear the ribbon, but it can often just be certain choices of clothing which signal membership in certain kinds of group. And some other groups might, just wear certain other things that signal that they're not part of that group. Now, in those circumstances, now it's sort of, you have to make a decision depending on where you go. If you were just trying to minimize the amount of flack that you get in life, you might just say, well, I'm going to this party and everybody's going to be like this. I'm going to go ahead and wear it because I don't want to be like, involved in getting in arguments because I'm signaling that I'm not actually a member. And so you might just bend and wear the ribbon that's involved in that community that you're going to. But even that can be dangerous, because then if you see people that are in your community and that you actually are a member of B and you went to A and you're putting the A signal on, well, now if someone from B sees you, they're going to say, dude, what are you doing? You don't even believe in A, and now you're being an A person, and so you're going to lose. You've made, by virtue of that, you've pushed reputation in, and now you can potentially get flack or lose reputation if it turns out that A is in fact bad. In fact, you think A is bad, so it just makes your reputation go down if you're caught that way. But masks don't have that property. So again, in those communities, you have to make a decision about what I want to say with my signal, and no matter which way you say it, you're visible. And so these turn out to be bets that you're then tied to, and then people remember in the community that you did that. Whereas it's totally not like that with face masks. As soon as I put it on and I go into public, I'm anonymous. So if I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can go into Costco, which now you can. I'm the only one in there. My wife and I are the only ones who are not wearing masks because they don't actually enforce it. And a lot of folks are on my side. And I, in fact, ran into one the other day. And I could recognize her. And I know she's anti-mask just like me, just not on the front lines of it. But life is easier to just go forward without having the kinds of fights. So what's going through, as soon as she saw me, she pulls her mask down and starts talking. But what each person is thinking when they walk in, they say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and wear the signal that is for the team I'm not even on, because in so doing, I'll be anonymous. No one's even going to see me. So I just become anonymous. I just become part of this mob, and no one's ever going to call me out on it because they're not going to see me. I happen to see her, but that's rare. Who knows how many people I run into at Costco that I know but I don't recognize? Right? Very hard to recognize people. So this asymmetry creates a huge pressure for folks to just bend in where the faux signal, because it's a false. It doesn't really serve as a signal because it's just much easier. So again, it was accidental. Face masks ended up to be the signal that the virtue signal folks wear, and especially in situations where their identity is attached to it, like on profiles. But what that creates is a massive asymmetry in public settings where people who are in no way for masks and might be on the fence, they're all going to wear masks because it doesn't commit them to anything. Whereas if they choose not to wear a mask, it suddenly commits them to a better reputation. And a lot of people are afraid that it's like, I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want this to be a dramatic situation. I just want to go do my stuff and not turn this into some kind of situation where I'm having to basically make claims as I'm walking past everybody, like, I'm in this club, I'm in this club. So they just prefer, when given the choice of not making any claims about what club they're in, they prefer just to make no claims at all. So that's another thing that's driving face masks and makes face masks fundamentally different from your typical kinds of virtue signals, because they're not virtue signals at all in public. So I want you to, again, similar to the previous science moment, this can create an illusion that we're losing. Because when you go around and you just see sometimes, even though Columbus, Ohio is where I am, very relaxed. It's been even better than Florida for most of the entirety, in spite of the governor. But even so, Costco still, everybody but me, is wearing a mask voluntarily. Now they might think it's required, but it turns out it's not. There's still folks everywhere who are wearing it, and that can make you feel like you have utterly lost. We're losing this entirely. But you have to correct for this, because some of this is an illusion. Some of this is an artifact, a bias by virtue of these asymmetrical pressures that are involved. And that's due to the strange meta nature of masks. As soon as you put these virtue signals on, they fail to be virtue signals in the normal sense of the term. And that was your science moment.